So basket weave square. Um, the actual pattern in the magazine looks quite pleasing actually texturally. It seems like we're going to have something slightly different to anything we've done before, and I'm quite excited about learning another stitch. Um, so I have got going on this and have managed to complete it actually. It didn't take me too long, it was just a case of really concentrating and getting going. And I had a spare few hours, so I managed to get it done. One thing I did do though was I ran out of wool in the middle, and so I had to join in another piece. And I was in a bit of a quandary as to how to do this, and I thought, right, well, I think I'm just going to try bringing it in without actually tying it onto the old bit of wool. But I made a bit of a fundamental mistake. I brought it in on the wrong side of the square. So you can see here that you've got the old bit here and the new bit just here. So I was a little bit cross about that, but in actual fact, I think what I'd need to do is just literally thread it through onto the other side, then I don't think anyone will be any the wiser. I keep thinking, if I make mistakes, then at least it's at the back. But then I suppose this is a blanket, so you will be able to see the front and the back. So I'm going to have to be a little bit careful with that one to see what I do. I looked it up on the internet, and it said that the best thing to do is just weave it into the pattern. So that's what I'm going to try. So that is that one. A while ago I did a double moss stitch square, the one in the dark blue, and it was a little bit small, and so I decided to block it with and then spray it with water. It was water, and use my top of a shoebox to pin it out. And I really wasn't sure if it was going to work, but in actual fact it has. That is now a perfect square, the perfect size, and I'm really pleased with that because it means that now I can take all my other squares and I can start to block them. This one doesn't seem to need any blocking at all, so I think this is about the right size. In fact, it might be slightly big, but that is a really good technique, blocking. It says it needs to go onto a padded surface, but I didn't find that I needed to do that at all. I just needed to make sure I had enough pins to pin it round the box. So good luck with this little square, but be careful if you are going to join wool on, make sure you're doing it on the wrong side firstly, or at least do it at the end. I sort of didn't do the right thing here and I've made a bit of a mistake, but I'll see if I can fix that. It should be fine. Hi everyone, hope you're all enjoying the summer and your knitting. I am just completing a really nice white square actually, and it's called the Step Stitch Square, and it's really coming on quite nicely. I have made a few mistakes, but the thing about it is it almost looks a bit cable-y, and I haven't used the cable needle obviously, but it looks really, really nice. It's a bit more finicky. You've got to really follow the pattern and really think about it. But I'm quite pleased with this. It seems to be working out quite well. I think probably if I look closely, I'll be able to work out where I didn't count up to 4. But that is just a general problem with me. I don't think it's one that many of you will struggle with. So this one, I'm just casting off at the minute. And I keep reading that I should be casting off into the back of the stitch, and I think I finally got what that actually means, and it does tend to make the edge a lot less pronounced. If you cast off into the front of the stitch, you just knit a stitch as though you were going into the front of the stitch and then back out, so your right needle goes behind your left. But if you're casting off into the back of the stitch, you go into the back of the stitch, round the back of your left hand needle, and then bring the wool round, and it still knits off nicely, and then you take the stitch over the top. So instead of going through the front of it, you go through the back of it, and it seems to work so that the edge is just slightly neater. This is a really nice texture, and it's difficult to see because of the colour. You can just sort of see it looks a bit basket weavy, but you can see that there is that step effect as it comes through, and texturally I think this is going to add a really nice square to the blanket. Obviously we've got loads of squares in white, but a lot of them have got some really interesting textures, so mix those up with the colours and I think they're going to work really well. I've been looking at lots of other projects recently because it's the summer holidays, and I'm on holiday and various other things. And I'm getting really confused with the difference between all the different types of wool. So I've been doing a bit of research, and you probably know all this, but I thought I'd just share with you what I found. Since I discovered knitting shops, I have become a little bit of a hoarder of knitting wool from bargain bin end baskets, and I've come away with quite a lot, and I just don't know what I'm going to do with it. But I've got bags of wool that I need to find a reason to have in my house, so I need to work on that. But I thought I'd just show you a few of them. This wool, you can see it's really, really beautiful. It's ever so thin, and apparently this is a 2-ply wool, and this means that I have to knit it on 2 to 3.5mm needles in order to make it work. And this creates a really nice lacy effect for sort of shawls and what have you. And then the stuff that we're working in, I think, is a 4-ply, which is basically the width of the wool, I think, and it tells you which needles you need to use to knit it with. And we're using 4mm needles, so I would imagine that our wool is 4-ply. And then you've got DK wool, which is double knit wool, and that's 2 times the weight of 4-ply, and you need to use 3.5 to 4.5 millimetre needles for that. So it's all relating to the needles. So every time I go near wool now, I know what needles I need for which number. And then you've got wool like this, which I used for a project a long time ago, and this is chunky wool, and you need to put that on bigger needles. I found this to my cost because I only had, this is when I was really starting out, I used 4mm needles with this, and it was a nightmare to knit with because it just the knit was really, really tight. So it strikes me that it does make sense that you know which needles you need for which type of wool. So I hope that helps. It's helped me. I've learnt a little bit this week in my lovely knitting shop. I've also learnt that I'm actually going to become a hoarder of beautiful wool. So if anybody's got any projects that they would like to share, so that I know what on earth I'm going to be doing with just remnants of things like this, please let me know, because otherwise I'm going to have to extend our house because there's not enough space for all the wool that I seem to be collecting at the moment. So good luck with this step stitch square. It's a fairly easy one as long as you're concentrating, and it's another one to add to our wonderful collection of squares that are growing quite alarmingly in number now. So good luck.